Jake Morrison stood at the window of his office looking out at the orange sky of Titan. The methane sea stretched far into the distance, its dark surface calm under Saturn's pale light. He had been the commander of New Horizons colony for 3 years now, and the view still amazed him. This was humanity's first real home beyond Earth and Mars. The colony housed almost 3,000 people. They lived in connected domes that kept the deadly cold and poisonous air outside. Families had made real lives here. Children played in the recreation areas while their parents worked the mining platforms or ran the research labs. It felt like a real town now, not just a science station. Jake's computer chimed with the morning reports. The methane processing plants were running well. The air recyclers worked perfectly. Food production was ahead of schedule. Everything looked normal, just like every other day for the past 7 years. Then Dr. Lisa Carter walked into his office without knocking. Her face was pale and she carried a tablet with shaking hands. "Commander, we need to talk," she said. "Something is wrong with Kraken Mare." Jake set down his coffee and motioned for her to sit. Lisa was the colony's best scientist. She studied alien life, though they had never found any on Titan. She was careful with her words and never got excited without good reason. "What kind of wrong?" Jake asked. Lisa placed her tablet on his desk. The screen showed wavy lines that meant nothing to him. "These are seismic readings from the bottom of the methane sea. We've been getting them for 2 weeks now. Earthquakes happen," Jake said. "Saturn's gravity pulls on Titan all the time." "These aren't earthquakes," Lisa said. She touched the screen and the lines moved. "Look at the pattern. They're too regular, too organized." Jake studied the lines more carefully. They did look strange. They went up and down in a steady rhythm like waves on a beach. But the methane sea had no tides, no weather to make waves like that. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "I don't know," Lisa said. "But it's getting stronger. And Commander, there's something else." She changed the screen to show a different set of readings. These looked like heartbeats on a medical monitor. "The pattern is changing. It's becoming more complex, more organized. Like something down there is learning." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Learning what?" "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's responding to our presence here." Before Jake could ask more questions, his door opened again. Rick Thompson, the mining supervisor, walked in. His work clothes were dirty and he looked tired. "Commander, we've got problems with the deep-sea platforms," Rick said. "Equipment keeps breaking down. Pumps stop working for no reason. Computer systems reset themselves." Jake looked from Rick to Lisa. "How long has this been happening?" 2 weeks, Rick said. "Same time these weird readings started." Lisa leaned forward. "Rick, have your crews noticed anything else? Anything strange?" Rick thought for a moment. "Actually, yes. The guys say the methane looks different around Platform 7. Like there are lights under the surface. Probably just equipment reflection, but what?" Jake asked. "Well, the lights seem to move. Like they're alive." Jake stood up and walked to his window again. Platform 7 was visible in the distance, a small metal structure sitting on the methane sea. It looked normal from here. "I want both of you to keep monitoring this," he said, but quietly. "Don't start any panic." "Commander," Lisa said, "I think we should inform Earth. This could be what?" Jake asked. "Equipment problems and strange readings? Earth Command will think we're losing our minds out here." Lisa gathered her tablet. "What if we're not the first life to live on Titan? What if something was here before us, sleeping under the methane?" The thought made Jake's skin crawl. Titan was supposed to be dead, cold and empty except for the chemicals they mined. The idea that something lived in those dark depths was terrifying. That evening, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked through the colony's quiet corridors, checking on the night shift workers. Everyone seemed normal. The children were asleep in their beds. Parents read books or watched movies from Earth. He ended up in the communications center where Maria Santos was monitoring signals from space. She was a good worker, always alert during the long night shifts. "Anything interesting tonight, Maria?" he asked. She looked up from her screens. "Actually, yes, sir. We're getting some unusual electromagnetic readings from the direction of Kraken Mare." Jake's heart rate increased. "What kind of readings?" "They look like communication attempts. Very weak but organized. Almost like someone is trying to send a message." "Someone?" "Well, something. The pattern is too complex to be natural interference." Jake studied the screen. The signals looked like code, but not any code he recognized. They pulsed in groups with pauses between them like a language. "How long have you been receiving these?" he asked. "Started about 2 weeks ago. They're getting stronger each night. 2 weeks. The same time the seismic readings started. The same time the equipment problems began." Jake returned to his quarters but still couldn't sleep. He stood at his window looking out at the Methane Sea. The surface was black under Titan's night sky, but he thought he could see faint lights moving beneath it. Maybe it was his imagination. Maybe it was just the reflection of the colony's lights, but the lights seemed to pulse in rhythm, like the signals Maria was receiving. Jake made a decision. Tomorrow he would call a meeting with his senior staff. They needed to investigate this properly. If something was waking up in the depths of Kraken Mare, humanity needed to be ready. As he finally tried to sleep, Jake thought about the 3,000 people depending on him. They had come to Titan to build a new life among the stars. They trusted him to keep them safe. But how do you protect people from something that might have been sleeping under their feet for millions of years? How do you fight something that you don't understand? Jake closed his eyes and tried not to think about the lights moving beneath the Methane Sea. But even in his dreams, he could feel something vast and ancient stirring in the depths below. Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting the next morning. His senior staff gathered in the conference room, their faces serious as they looked at the data Lisa Carter had prepared. "Let me understand this correctly," said Ryan Palmer, the security chief. "You think something is trying to talk to us from the bottom of the Methane Sea?" Maria Santos nodded. "The electromagnetic pulses are definitely organized. They come in patterns with pauses like sentences in a conversation." Ben Clark, the chief engineer, rubbed his tired eyes. "I've been having the strangest dreams lately. I see huge structures underwater glowing with blue and green lights. They look like buildings, but not human buildings. Dreams," Ryan asked. "What do dreams have to do with this?" "I don't know," Ben said. "But they started 2 weeks ago, right when all this other stuff began." Dr. Sam Bennett, the colony's geologist, spread out charts of the seafloor. "I've been studying the rock formations under Kraken Mare. There are caves down there. Huge ones, big enough to hold entire cities." Jake felt that cold feeling in his stomach again. "Cities?" "Natural formations," Sam said quickly. "At least I thought they were natural. But looking at these new readings, some of the shapes seemed too perfect, too organized." Lisa connected her tablet to the main screen. "I've been comparing the electromagnetic signals with the seismic readings. They match perfectly. Whatever is making these signals is also causing the vibrations in the sea floor. So we're dealing with one thing, not several problems," Jake said. "That's what I think," Lisa agreed. "Something big. Something that's been sleeping and is now waking up." Ryan stood up and began pacing. "Commander, we need to follow first contact protocols. Lock down the colony. Prepare defensive measures. Contact Earth immediately." "Wait," Lisa said. "We don't know if this thing is hostile. Maybe it's just curious about us." "Curious things that can shake the sea floor worry me," Ryan replied. Ben spoke up again. "In my dreams, the structures don't feel dangerous. They feel old, ancient, and lonely." Everyone stared at him. Jake made a decision that would change everything. "We're going to investigate," he said, carefully. "Ryan, I want you to prepare security protocols, but keep them quiet. Lisa, I want you to keep studying these signals. Try to find patterns we can understand." "What about Earth?" Ryan asked. "Not yet," Jake said. "If we contact Earth now, they'll either order us to abandon the colony or send a military fleet. I want to know what we're dealing with first." The meeting broke up with everyone nervous but determined. Jake spent the morning reviewing personnel files, trying to decide who he could trust with this information. That afternoon, his computer chimed with an urgent message. It was from Platform 7, their deepest mining station. "Commander," came the voice of Nick Davis, the platform foreman. "We've got a problem out here. Our equipment is acting strange." "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. "The methane pumps are moving themselves, rearranging into patterns. And sir, the crew is acting weird too. They keep staring into the methane like they're watching something." Jake felt his heart race. "Nick, I'm sending a rescue team. Get your people ready to evacuate." "Sir, I don't think they want to leave. 3 of them are standing at the edge of the platform and they keep talking about going for a swim." "A swim? In liquid methane? That would kill them instantly, I know, sir. But they seem to think they'll be fine. They say the methane will welcome them." Jake ended the call and immediately contacted Amy Walsh, his best pilot. Amy, I need you to take a team to Platform 7, medical emergency. On my way. Commander? Jake watched from the communications center as Amy's transport flew toward Platform 7. The platform looked normal from a distance, but as the transport got closer, Jake could see that something was very wrong. The mining equipment had been moved into strange geometric patterns. Metal pipes and processing units formed complex shapes that served no purpose Jake could understand. It looked like abstract art but made from industrial machinery. Commander? Amy's voice came over the radio. I'm approaching the platform now. I can see the crew. They're all standing at the edge looking down into the methane. Are they responding to your calls? Negative. They're just standing there. Wait, they're moving now. Commander, they're putting on their environmental suits. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. Amy, get down there now. Stop them. I'm landing. The crew is walking to the edge of the platform. Commander, they're jumping into the methane. Jake heard Amy shouting over the radio, but it was too late. 12 people had just walked into a sea of liquid methane that should have killed them in seconds. Amy, can you see them?
Are they? Commander, this is impossible.
They're walking on the bottom of the sea. I can see them through the clear methane. They're walking like they can breathe it. Jake's mind couldn't process what he was hearing. Human beings could not survive in liquid methane. The cold alone would freeze them solid in minutes. Amy, get back to the platform. Search for survivors. Already here, Commander. The platform is empty, but sir, you need to see this. The equipment they moved, it's not random. It looks like symbols. Like writing. Jake stared at the screen showing the platform's security cameras. The mining equipment had been arranged into complex patterns that did look like a language. But whose language? Amy, get back here immediately. Don't touch anything. As Amy's transport returned to the colony, Jake made another decision. He activated the colony's emergency protocols, sealing all the entrances and restricting movement between sections. That evening, Ben Clark came to see him. The engineer looked exhausted and frightened. Commander, the dreams are getting stronger. I can understand some of what I'm seeing now. What do you mean? The thing under the methane. It's been alone for billions of years. It's trying to communicate with us, but it doesn't understand how fragile we are. The crew from Platform 7, they're not dead, Ben said. They're changed. The thing under the sea, it's trying to make friends the only way it knows how, by making us like itself. Jake felt the weight of command crushing down on him. 3,000 people depended on him to keep them safe. But how do you protect humanity from something that thinks killing you is an act of friendship? Ben, can you still resist these dreams? For now. But Commander, it's getting harder. The voice in my head is getting louder. And it's not just me anymore. I've heard other people talking about the beautiful lights under the sea. Jake looked out his window at the methane sea. In the distance, he could see lights moving beneath the surface. They pulsed in the same rhythm as the electromagnetic signals Maria was receiving. Something ancient and powerful was waking up under Titan's sea. And it had noticed humanity. Dr. Lisa Carter worked through the night in her laboratory, studying samples of methane from near Platform 7. Under her microscope, she saw something that made her hands shake. The methane contained microscopic structures that looked almost like cells. But unlike anything from Earth, Tony, come look at this, she called to Dr. Tony Miller, her research partner. Tony bent over the microscope and gasped. These look organic. But that's impossible. Nothing can live in liquid methane. Maybe nothing from Earth can, Lisa said. But what if life on Titan evolved differently? They worked together for hours, analyzing the strange structures. The more they studied them, the more convinced they became that they were looking at life forms. Ancient life forms that had existed in Titan's methane seas for millions of years. Lisa, look at this, Tony said, pointing to his computer screen. I've been tracking the concentration of these organisms. They're densest directly under where Platform 7 was located. That can't be a coincidence, Lisa said. The thing that took our people, it's not an alien visitor. It's native to Titan. While Lisa and Tony made their discoveries, Dr. Kevin Hughes was dealing with a crisis in the colony's medical center. 17 colonists had come to see him, all complaining of the same symptoms: vivid dreams, voices in their heads, and an overwhelming urge to visit the methane sea. The dreams feel so real, said Janet Brooks, a mining engineer. I see huge cities under the methane. Beautiful cities with towers that glow like stars, and there are people there calling to me. What kind of people? Kevin asked. They look human but different, like they can breathe methane instead of air. They seem happy. They want me to join them. Kevin had heard similar stories from all 17 patients. The details were too consistent to be imagination. Something was definitely influencing their minds. He called Commander Morrison immediately. Jake, we have a problem. More colonists are being affected by whatever happened at Platform 7. How many? 17 so far, but the number is growing. They all want to go to the Methane Sea. Some of them have asked for environmental suits. Jake felt his worst fears coming true. Kevin, can you keep them safe? For now. But Jake, I don't think we can fight this with medicine. Whatever is affecting them isn't a disease. It's something else. That evening, Jake held another emergency meeting. The situation was getting worse by the hour. The organism in the methane is ancient, Lisa reported. Older than complex life on Earth. It's been dormant in Titan's seas probably since the moon formed. What woke it up? Ryan Palmer asked. We did, Lisa said. Our mining operations, our presence here. We've been stirring up the sea floor for 7 years. We finally disturbed something that was sleeping. Ben Clark spoke up, his voice tired and strained. It's not evil. In my dreams I can feel what it feels. It's been alone for so long. Billions of years with no one to talk to. When it sensed us, it got excited. It wants to communicate. By taking over our people, Ryan said angrily. It doesn't understand that we're different, Ben replied. To this thing, consciousness is consciousness. It doesn't realize that changing us kills who we were. Dr. Sam Bennett had been studying the seafloor maps all day. I think I know where it is. There's a massive cave system directly under Platform 7. The caves go down for miles. If something that big wanted to hide, that's where it would go. Maria Santos added her own disturbing news. The electromagnetic signals are getting more complex. It's like the thing is learning our language. Some of the patterns now match human speech patterns. Jake studied the faces around the table. These were good people, smart people, but they were facing something beyond human experience. What about the missing crew? He asked. The people who walked into the methane? Lisa hesitated before answering. Based on what we're seeing, I think they're still alive. But they're not human anymore. The organism has changed them so they can survive in the methane environment. Changed them how? I don't know exactly. But Ben's dreams suggest they retain their memories and personalities. They're still the same people, just adapted for a different environment. Jake felt sick. 12 people had been transformed into something alien, and more colonists were showing signs of being affected. Commander, Ben said suddenly, it's trying to talk to us right now. Everyone turned to look at him. Ben's eyes were unfocused, like he was listening to something no one else could hear. What is it saying? Jake asked. It's confused. It doesn't understand why we're afraid. It thinks it's offering us a gift. The ability to live in both environments, air and methane. It wants to share Titan with us. And if we refuse? Ben was quiet for a long moment. It doesn't understand refusal. It's been alone for so long that the concept of not wanting companionship doesn't make sense to it. Ryan stood up abruptly. Commander, we need to evacuate the colony. This thing is going to convert everyone if we stay. We can't evacuate, Jake said. If this organism can influence people across space, it could spread to other colonies. We might carry it with us, Lisa leaned forward. There might be another way. What if we could teach it about human nature? Help it understand that we need to remain ourselves? How do we communicate with something that lives in liquid methane? Ryan asked. Through the people, it's already changed, Ben said. The crew from Platform 7, they're like translators now. They can speak both languages. Jake made a decision that terrified him. Ben, can you contact them? I think so. But Commander, if I open my mind to it completely, I might not be able to resist the change myself. We need to try, Jake said, but not alone. We'll monitor you constantly. If you start to change, we'll pull you back. That night, Ben Clark sat in the communications center with medical sensors attached to his body. Lisa, Kevin, and Jake watched his vital signs as he opened his mind to the ancient consciousness beneath the methane sea. I can see them, Ben whispered. The crew from Platform 7. They're in a city made of living coral. The walls pulse with bioluminescent light. They look human, but they can breathe methane like water. Are they happy? Jake asked. Yes, but also sad. They remember their human lives. They miss their families, but they can't come back. The change is permanent. Can you talk to the organism directly? It's huge, Ben said, his voice filled with awe. It stretches through the entire cave system. It's not just one creature, it's like a living ecosystem, and it's ancient beyond imagination. Ben's body tensed suddenly. It's trying to change me too. It wants me to join them. It promises I'll never be lonely again. Ben, fight it, Kevin urged, watching the medical readings spike. It's hard, Ben gasped. It feels so good. Like coming home after a long journey. Jake grabbed Ben's shoulders. Think about your life here. Your work, your friends, your human identity. Ben's eyes snapped open and he pulled away from the connection. I'm okay. But Commander, we're running out of time. More people are going to be affected. The organism's influence is spreading through the colony's air system. Jake looked out the window at the methane sea. The lights beneath the surface were brighter now, and he could see structures rising from the depths. The ancient consciousness was no longer hiding. How long do we have? He asked. Maybe days, Ben said. Maybe hours. It's learning about us faster than we're learning about it. Jake knew he had to make a choice that would determine the fate of everyone on Titan. Fight the organism and risk losing everyone, or find a way to coexist with something that didn't understand the value of human individuality. The lights in the methane sea pulsed brighter, as if the ancient consciousness knew that the moment of decision was approaching. Jake Morrison knew he had to act fast. The ancient consciousness was spreading its influence through the colony, and more people were falling under its control each hour. He called his most trusted staff to a secret meeting in a shielded room, deep in the colony's center. We have two problems, Jake said. First, we need to stop the organism from taking over more of our people. Second, we need to find a way to communicate without losing ourselves. Dr. Lisa Carter had been working on the first problem. I think I know how the organism spreads its influence. It uses the methane and hydrogen cyanide in our air recycling system. These chemicals carry microscopic parts of itself. Ben Clark, who was fighting the organism's mental influence every minute, nodded weakly. That's why the dreams are stronger near the air recyclers. The organism is literally in the air we breathe. Can we filter it out? Jake asked. I've been working on that, Ben said. We can modify the atmospheric scrubbers to remove the organism's particles, but it will take time, and we'll need to do it without the affected colonists noticing. Ryan Palmer had been organizing the unaffected colonists into teams. We have maybe 40 people who haven't shown any symptoms yet. I've got them working in shifts to avoid exposure to the contaminated air. What about evacuation? Amy Walsh asked. She had been preparing the transport ships just in case. Still too dangerous, Jake said. If we carry this organism to other colonies, it could spread across the entire solar system. We have to solve this here. While they planned their defense, something unexpected happened. Nick Davis, the foreman from Platform 7, appeared on the colony's communication system. But he wasn't calling from the platform. He was calling from beneath the methane sea. Commander Morrison. Nick's voice came through clearly. We need to talk. Jake stared at the screen. Nick looked human, but there were changes. His skin had a slight blue tint and his eyes reflected light like a cat's. Behind him, Jake could see the bioluminescent city Ben had described in his dreams. Nick, are you all right? Jake asked. I'm fine, Commander. Better than fine. The entity wants to explain itself to you. It realizes it made mistakes. What kind of mistakes? It didn't understand that humans value their individual identities. It thought consciousness was the same for everyone. It was trying to give you a gift, but it gave it wrong. Dr. Lisa Carter stepped forward. Nick, can you still think for yourself? Yes and no, Nick replied. I'm still me, but I'm also part of something bigger. I can feel the entity's thoughts, but my own thoughts are still my own. It's hard to explain. What does the entity want? Jake asked. It wants to coexist. It's been alone for billions of years, Commander. When it found intelligent life, it got excited and acted without thinking. It's willing to learn a better way. Jake felt a spark of hope. What kind of better way? It can reverse what it did to most people. The changes aren't permanent if they're caught early. But Commander, it needs something in return. What? Communication. It wants some humans to serve as ambassadors, people who can translate between human and entity consciousness, volunteers who choose the change willingly. Jake looked around the room at his staff. This could be a trick, but Nick seemed sincere. And if the entity was willing to negotiate, it was better than the alternative. I need time to think about this, Jake said. You don't have much time, Nick replied. The entity is struggling to control itself. Its influence spreads naturally when it's emotional. Right now, it's excited about the possibility of friendship. That excitement is affecting more of your people. The communication ended, leaving Jake and his team in stunned silence. "It could be a trap," Ryan said. "Maybe," Jake replied. "But what choice do we have? We can't fight something that big and powerful." Lisa had been thinking, what if we could create a controlled interface? A way for humans to communicate with the entity without being completely changed? How would that work? Ben asked. "Biological filters. We could develop a system that allows limited mental connection while preserving human brain patterns. Like a translator device, but biological." Jake made a decision that would define humanity's future on Titan. "Do it. Lisa, work with Ben to develop this interface. Kevin, I need you to identify volunteers. People who understand the risks but are willing to try. And if it doesn't work?" Ryan asked. "Then we hope the entity keeps its word about reversing the changes." Over the next 24 hours, the team worked frantically. Lisa and Ben developed a biological interface using modified organisms from the Methane Sea. It would allow limited connection to the entity's consciousness while maintaining human brain patterns. Dr. Julie Harrison, a marine biologist, volunteered to test the interface first. "I've studied alien ecosystems my whole career," she said. "This is why I came to Titan." Pete Wilson, an engineer who had been having mild dreams, also volunteered. "Maybe I can help bridge the gap between human and entity thinking." As they prepared for the test, the entity demonstrated its power by temporarily taking control of the colony's life support systems. For 10 terrifying minutes, the oxygen levels fluctuated wildly before returning to normal. Nick Davis appeared on the communication system again. "The entity is sorry. It's having trouble controlling its emotions. When it gets excited or frustrated, its influence spreads automatically." "Tell it we're working on a solution," Jake said. "It knows. It can sense what you're doing. Commander, it wants you to know that it's impressed by human ingenuity. It didn't expect you to find a technological solution to a biological problem." The first test of the interface was both terrifying and amazing. Julie Harrison put on the biological device, which looked like a helmet made of living coral. Her brain patterns changed on the monitors but remained recognizably human. "I can hear it," she whispered. "It's like a chorus of voices all singing the same song. It's beautiful and lonely and ancient beyond belief." "Can you communicate with it?" Jake asked. "Yes, it's trying to show me how it sees the universe. Commander, it doesn't think like us at all. To the entity, all consciousness is one consciousness. It doesn't understand why we want to stay separate. Can you explain human individuality to it?" Julie was quiet for several minutes, her face showing intense concentration. "I'm trying. It's like explaining color to someone who was born blind. The concept is completely foreign to it." Pete Wilson tried the interface next. As an engineer, he approached the problem differently. "It's like a living computer network," he said. "But instead of data, it shares consciousness. I think I can teach it about human privacy and individual identity." The breakthrough came when Pete found a way to show the entity human art and music. The entity was fascinated by the concept of individual creativity, something it had never experienced. "It's starting to understand," Pete reported. "It realizes that changing us destroys the very thing it finds interesting about humanity." Jake felt hope growing in his chest. Maybe they could find a solution that didn't require anyone to sacrifice their humanity. But then alarms began sounding throughout the colony. More colonists were being affected by the entity's influence, and this time it wasn't accidental. Something had changed in the entity's behavior, and Jake feared they were running out of time. "Commander," Ben Clark said, his voice strained. "The entity is afraid. It thinks you're trying to destroy it with these interfaces. It's preparing to defend itself." Jake looked out at the Methane Sea, where massive structures were rising from the depths. The ancient consciousness was no longer hiding, and it was no longer passive. Humanity was about to face the full power of something that had ruled Titan for billions of years. Jake Morrison stood in the communications center, watching the massive structures rise from Kraken Mare. The ancient entity was no longer hiding beneath the Methane Sea. Coral-like towers stretched toward Titan's orange sky, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Commander?" Nick Davis's voice came through the speakers. "The entity is scared. It thinks your biological interfaces are weapons designed to hurt it." Jake grabbed the microphone. "Nick, tell it we're not trying to hurt it. We're trying to find a way to coexist." "It doesn't understand coexistence," Nick replied. "In its experience, consciousness either merges or conflicts. There's no middle ground." The colony shook as something massive moved beneath the sea floor, Through the windows, Jake could see bioluminescent patterns spreading across the methane sea's surface. The entity was preparing for war. How long do we have? Jake asked. Minutes, maybe less. Commander. It's going to try to convert everyone in the colony at once. It thinks that's the only way to protect itself. Jake made the most important decision of his life. Instead of preparing defenses or calling for evacuation, he did something that embodied the best of human nature. He chose to trust. Lisa, prepare the biological interface for me, he ordered. Commander, that's too dangerous, Ryan Palmer protested. If the entity takes you over, we lose our leader. If I don't try to communicate with it directly, we lose everyone, Jake replied. This is our only chance. Dr. Lisa Carter worked quickly to prepare the interface. Jake, this device hasn't been fully tested. We don't know what prolonged exposure might do to your brain. We're about to find out, Jake said. As Jake put on the biological interface, he felt the entity's consciousness wash over him like a tide. It was overwhelming. Billions of years of memory, emotion, and thought flooding through his mind. But instead of fighting it, he embraced it. I can feel what it feels, Jake said, his voice echoing strangely. It's not evil. It's just alone. So incredibly alone. Through the interface, Jake experienced the entity's entire history. He saw Titan as it was billions of years ago, when the entity first became aware of itself in the primordial methane seas. He felt its joy when it created the first coral cities, its satisfaction as it learned to shape the seafloor, and its crushing loneliness as eons passed without any other intelligent life. It made the coral cities to have something beautiful to look at, Jake explained to his team. It created art because it was bored. It learned to sing to itself because there was no one else to talk to. The entity's fear hit Jake like a physical blow. For the first time in billions of years, it had found other conscious beings. The thought of losing them was unbearable. It's not trying to hurt us, Jake realized. It's trying to save us. In its mind, if we merge with it, we'll never die. We'll be part of something eternal. But we'll lose ourselves, Lisa pointed out. That's what I need to teach it, Jake said. That our individuality is what makes us valuable. Jake opened his mind completely to the entity, sharing his own memories and emotions. He showed it his childhood on Earth, his training as a space pilot, his love for his family, his pride in leading the colony. Most importantly, he showed it how human creativity and individuality worked. The entity was fascinated by the concept of separate minds creating different ideas. In its experience, all thoughts came from the same source. The idea that isolation could lead to creativity instead of loneliness was revolutionary. It's beginning to understand, Jake reported, but it's still afraid of being alone again. Tell it that coexistence doesn't mean loneliness, Julie Harrison suggested. She was also connected to the interface, helping to translate human concepts. Show it that friendship can exist between separate beings. Jake shared memories of human friendship, love, and cooperation. He showed the entity how humans could work together while remaining individuals. The concept was difficult for a consciousness that had always been unified, but gradually it began to understand. It wants to try, Jake said, but it needs volunteers. People willing to serve as permanent ambassadors between our species. Pete Wilson stepped forward. I'll do it. I've already been partially affected. I can handle the full change. And I'll volunteer too, said Dr. Alex Rodriguez, the marine biologist who had been skeptical of the whole situation until now. Someone needs to study this. Scientifically. 3 other colonists also volunteered, people who had been showing signs of the entity's influence and were willing to complete the transformation voluntarily. This entity began to reverse its changes to the affected colonists. Jake felt its consciousness withdraw from the people who hadn't volunteered, restoring their fully human minds. It was a difficult process for the entity, like giving up pieces of itself. It's working, Dr. Kevin Hughes reported from the medical center. The affected colonists are returning to normal brain patterns, but the real breakthrough came when the entity began to change itself. Using the biological interfaces as models, it created specialized parts of its consciousness that could communicate with humans without overwhelming them. It's amazing, Julie Harrison said through her interface. It's literally evolving new parts of itself to better interact with us, parts that think more like humans. Over the following days, a new relationship developed between humanity and the ancient consciousness. The entity learned to create beautiful art that humans could appreciate. while humans shared their music and literature. The 5 volunteers served as permanent ambassadors, living in specially designed chambers that allowed them to survive in both air and methane environments. The entity began to help the colony in ways no one had expected. It provided detailed knowledge of Titan's geology, weather patterns, and resources. It helped design new mining techniques that were more efficient and less disruptive to the environment. Most remarkably, it began to create art collaboratively with the colonists. The methane sea became a canvas for bioluminescent displays that combined human creativity with alien biology. The results were breathtaking, living paintings that changed and evolved over time. Commander Morrison stood in his office a month later, looking out at a transformed Kraken mare. The sea now pulsed with patterns of light that told stories, created by both human minds and ancient consciousness working together. Colony log, day 43 after first contact. Jake spoke into his recorder. The relationship between humanity and the Titan entity continues to develop. We've established protocols for communication that respect both human individuality and the entity's need for companionship. Nick Davis had become the chief ambassador, leading a team of human-entity hybrids who served as translators and cultural bridges. They retained their human personalities while gaining the ability to experience the entity's vast consciousness. The entity has agreed to help us establish additional colonies on Titan, Jake continued. In exchange, we're sharing human culture and creativity. It's particularly fascinated by human humor, which apparently is a completely alien concept to a billions-year-old consciousness. Dr. Lisa Carter had been promoted to head of the new xenobiology department, tasked with studying the entity and developing better communication methods. Her work was already leading to breakthroughs in biotechnology and consciousness research. Most importantly, Jake said, we've proven that coexistence is possible between vastly different forms of consciousness. The entity no longer sees merger as the only form of relationship. It's learning to appreciate diversity. Jake ended his log and composed a message to Earth Command. The message would take hours to reach Earth, but when it did, it would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. Earth Command, this is New Horizons colony. We have successfully established peaceful relations with native Titanian life. Repeat, we have achieved first contact with an intelligent species. The situation is stable and both species are benefiting from cooperation. Jake paused, thinking about how to explain what had happened. The entity has existed on Titan for billions of years. It is ancient, powerful, and initially misunderstood human nature. However, through patient communication and mutual respect, we have established a partnership that benefits both species. I am recommending that Titan be designated as the first interspecies colony. Humanity has not conquered Titan. We have learned to share it. This represents a new chapter in human space exploration, one based on cooperation rather than domination. Jake looked out at the methane sea, where human children were now playing in viewing domes, while alien consciousness created light shows for their entertainment. The entity had learned to enjoy making humans happy, and humans had learned to appreciate the beauty of truly alien intelligence. Final note, Jake added to his message, the entity has expressed interest in communicating with Earth directly. It wants to share its knowledge of the outer solar system and its experiences with other forms of life it has encountered in the past. Humanity is no longer alone in the universe, and our new friend has stories that span geological ages. As Jake watched the lights dance beneath Titan's waves, he realized that humanity had passed its greatest test. When faced with something utterly alien, they had chosen understanding over fear, cooperation over conflict. They had proven that humans could adapt, learn, and grow even when confronted with the impossible.